Manosarovar and Rakshastal lakes. To the south side of Mount Kailash lie two freshwater lakes, Lake Manosarovar and Lake Rakshastal. In terms of sacred value, the most important of these two is the eastern one, Manosarovar or Manasa, meaning Lake of the Mind. Having a circumference of 86 km, it reaches 90 meters deep and has a surface area of about 320 square kilometers. Lying at an altitude of roughly 4,500 meters above sea level, it is the highest body of fresh water in the world. Albeit extremely cold, most pilgrims will bathe in the waters of Tsomapham, which is one of the Tibetan names for Manasarovar, meaning the undefeated turquoise lake, long considered as exceptionally pure and to have curative properties, and undefeated, because the water possesses 8 qualities that no other water can compete with. 1. It is clean, does not smell or contain any toxic substances. 2. It is clear without mud nor dirt. 3. It is cool and free from heat. 4. It is smooth and has no flavor of aching and uneasiness. 5. It is secure and has protective powers to secure health. 6. It tastes delicious and is not salty or bitter. 7. It fully satisfies thirst. 8. It does not cause any sickness or disease. Along with the many myths and religious stories it is associated with, it is also one of the most reputably important locations for Nagas in this world. In former times, 8 Buddhist Gompas, Trugo, Gotsuk, Gosyol, Chu, Cherkup, Langpuna, Bonri, Seralung and Yaingo surrounded the margins of this holy lake. To Buddhists, Lake Manosarovar represents the wheel of life, a complex picture representing the Buddhist view of the universe, the hub being at the center and the 8 gompas surrounding that, denoting the places where the spokes of the wheel connect with the rim. Thus, one full kora of pilgrimage around the lake signifies a single turning of the wheel, with all the benefits that apply. There are a number of other stories about the preciousness of the lake. According to legend, after Buddha Shakyamuni had nailed down Kailash, he then sat on a rock in front of Mount Kailash and gave teachings to the Nagas residing in Lake Manasarovar and Lake Rakshastal, thus consecrating them. Today, Buddhist pilgrims call this rock The Throne of the Buddha. The Book of Superior Speeches also mentions, if the Naga king is not in Manasarovar, how do rivers flow in this world? If there are no rivers, there would be no vegetation. It is, however, said that the Nagas occupying the lake mostly leave travelers passing through this trail during the pilgrimage season alone, unless they veer off into surrounding areas where they should not trespass. Some Buddhists believe that the lake was identical to the legendary Anotitta lake, where the Buddha's mother dreamt she had bathed and seen a vision of the Buddha appearing from the direction of Kailash on a white elephant before he was born. In the biography of the legendary King Nosang, Manasarovar Lake is called the Lotus Lake of Naga, so called because its shape is similar to a lotus flower, which has 100 petals. From each petal flows a river, and at the source of each river is a Naga residence. The king of the Nagas was known as Kiva Natsog and ruled over several Naga states. Every month King Nosang's subjects burned incense and made torma offerings at the river sources, burying a vase of torma offering every year. The prosperity and happiness of the northern king, Nosang, and his subjects depended on the lake and the Naga king. Manosarovar is also worshipped by Hindus, who believe that it was created by the creator god, Brahma. According to the Hindu belief, Brahma's 7 sons went to Mount Kailash to visit and pay homage to Shiva and Parvati. Because they lacked a convenient source to perform ablutions, they asked their father if he could help them. So Brahma obliged, and created the lake with his mind. While Brahma's sons rejoiced at the creation, they saw a huge lingam arise from the lake and subsequently worshipped it. The lake is also seen by Hindus to be the home of the serpent Naga king and his subjects, who live in the lake and feed off the fruit of a giant jambu tree that is said to grow in the middle of it, but is only visible to those with clairvoyant capability. The great Buddhist masters, including Guru Rinpoche and those who have gained higher stages of spiritual realization, are known to have said that they could see a live tree growing in this universe, whose root is in the Naga world, the branches in the human world and the world of gods or celestial beings at the top of it. Once upon a time, the seed of the Jambukrita fell in Lake Manosarovar where it created a sound, Zam, and this is why this world is known as Zambu Ling in ancient scriptures. In the 12th century, a Buddhist practitioner, Drikung Changa Lingpa, went to wash himself in Manosarovar, at which time he hung his robe up on the tree. Since his followers were unable to see the tree, it appeared as if his robe was hanging in the air. On another occasion, Changa Lingpa received an invitation from the Naga king, who was asking for his teachings. He sat in a lotus position on the water at the lake's shore and was taken to the center of the lake as if he was still on the same spot. Then he was offered an image of Buddha Shakyamuni, known as Thupa Chunirma. The size of the image is 12 fingers broad and it is believed to have been blessed by Buddha Shakyamuni himself. Currently, the image is kept in a young monastery in southern India. Finally, the fourth Panchen Lama, Losang Choki Gyal Sen, offered a ceremonial white scarf known as a katak to Manosarovar with his prayers and admiration that hung on the Jambukrita tree for a week, but since no ordinary person could see the tree, everyone thought the scarf was hanging in the air. Sometimes the tree drops its fruits and they fall to the bottom of the lake and are said to turn into gold. In fact, gold has been found in the northwest corner of the lake near Chugompe, where it was mined for a while, but this action was eventually stopped due to an outbreak of smallpox, which was considered by some to be the wrath of the Nagas at this undertaking. Legend says that rubies, crystal, topaz, coral, and other precious and semi-precious stones are to be found on its shore. The Abhidharmakosha says, its edges are lined with jeweled slabs, and it's true that if the pilgrim searches along the shore, he or she will immediately notice numerous polished pebbles of different shapes and colors, some of them very beautiful, perhaps the origin of this legend. Another story abounds. There was once an evil Naga living in a corner of Lake Manosarovar. He was a shape-shifter and taking the form of a red ox he came before the king and begged for protection. His legs were torn and pierced by nails, and his skull was split apart so that the blood and brains were seeping through. His tongue was lolling out, and his eyes were emerging from their sockets so that it seemed as if they would fall from his head. "What has befallen you?" asked the king. "Padmasambhava," came the reply, "that son of heathen savages is bringing us to ruin, the gods and humans of Tibet. It is thus that he torments the Tibetan gods and spirits, innocent though we be. I have come, great king, to seek your protection." The pious king was stirred to deep compassion, but no sooner had he uttered the words, "You may stay," then the ox vanished. What might this be? The king wondered, and then the Guru told him, "O great king, your pity was misplaced. Now throughout the garland of your future lives there will be many difficulties, and then this red demonic ox will comes again, as king." The present king thus prayed that he would at least have the power to overwhelm this ox, and the Guru prophesied that he would indeed subdue him. The story continues with a lot of details about empowerments, the attainment of immortality through his practice with the Dakini Yeshe Sogyal, hidden treasures, the revealing of texts, predictions etc. A modern-day Indian saint, Sadhguru says there's a lot of activity in the lake between 2:50 am and 3:45 am. He questions why one particular spot on the planet has been used by life that doesn't belong here and tells us that Nagas are simply not the same as humans, but a life force from somewhere else that has chosen this as an airport. Something like that. He goes on to mention that there are absolutely tons of them here and even asks if Shiva was perhaps one of them, who maybe even left with them. He continues by saying that somehow humanity is unwilling to acknowledge them for whatever reason, yet they are influencing us in so many different fundamental ways. In one session, they do an experiment whereby pilgrims lie down next to the lake and allow Nagas to enter their bodies, which creates an enormous amount of heat. Reports are that it feels like something is placed on the head to the point of discomfort and then something rushes through the system. The pilgrim should not be restrained, otherwise it could damage their physical body. When ice cold water was placed next to the hand of one of the pilgrims, water came to boiling point. Rakshastal. Adjacent to Manosa River is Lake Rakshastal, which is known as The Lake of Demons, and even standing on its shore, one gets a slightly eerie feeling. Rakshastal has 2 islands in it, whereas Manosa River has none. With a circumference of about 123 km and a surface area of about 362 sq km, it lies at a slightly lower elevation than its neighbor. During the turning of the 3 wheels of the Dharma, Buddha Shakyamuni extensively explained the merits of building images. So the king of the gods, Indra, offered precious articles of the gods. The king of Nagas, Ananta, offered precious articles of the Nagas, and the king of Magad, Bimbasara, offered gold and silver, etc., to the Buddha and requested him to have 3 images of the Buddha made, as a means of gathering merit for sentient beings in the future. From these items and on the instructions of the Buddha, the master craftsman Vishwakarma made 3 images of Lord Buddha that were blessed by the Shakyamuni himself. One of these images that was kept at Magad for devotees to make offerings and pay homage to, was one day miraculously taken by a demon to his palace at Lake Rakshastal. Then he devised that a special place was needed to keep such a sacred statue and attempted to carry Mount Kailash on his back to a realm of the Nagas in Lake Rakshastal. Following this is the story of the Buddha flying with the 500 arhats to Mount Kailash to prevent him from taking the mountain, by nailing it down with his footprints. In sacred Indian geography, Manosarovar and Rakshastal are seen as a pair, each representing the opposites of good and evil, light and darkness. And indeed the 2 lakes do have very different characteristics, the water in the second lacking the sweetness of that in the first. Manosarovar is roughly round, representing the light of the sun, while Rakshastal is irregular, elongated and concave on its eastern shore, so that it is described as crescent-shaped and represents the reflected light of the moon. Mount Meru, said to rise 84,000 leagues high with a snow-capped pyramidal-shaped peak whose 4 faces are made of crystal, ruby, gold, and lapis lazuli, and located at the heart of 6 mountain ranges symbolizing a lotus. Mount Meru is reputably the pillar of the world, the central column of the proverbial tree of life that so many religions and esoteric wisdom paths have mentioned in their traditions. There are many references to Tibet's Mount Kailash as being the physical counterpart of the legendary Mount Meru, the premier mountain standing at the center of the world mandala, the Earth's navel, and reputably from which all other peaks around the globe were seeded. The Hindu Puranas maintain that Meru Kailash once marked the middle of Jambu Dvipa, which is both a name for a legendary continent at the world's center and for the earth in its entirety. Just as they do at Mount Kailash, according to a description in the Puranas, 4 rivers flow from it, which stretch to the 4 quarters of the world and divide the world into 4 regions. In Tibetan, Mount Meru is known as Ri Gyal, which means King of Mountains. Living beings are described as coming into existence through the interaction of the 5 elements and common karmas. Karma is a Buddhist term that is defined as the sum of somebody's good and bad past actions, which is believed to decide their fate in the future. Among living beings, there are those who have physical bodies and those who don't and live in this universe at a wide range of levels upon Mount Meru. Nagas are assigned to the lowest tier, with their Garuda enemies placed on that above. Many of the people of Asia first appeared in the Garden of Eden that surrounds and includes Mount Kailash, including the Persians, Scythians, and the earliest Tibetans. The Bond shamans of Tibet claim that the region was the site of the ancient Garden of Eden known as Olmolingring, while some of the Tibetan Buddhists identify the area as Shamhala, the location of the imperial city and throne of the king of the world. Similarly, the Persian history contained within the Avanidad refer to Meru Kailash as Hara Benziti, the emerald mountain at the center of the earth that once united heaven and earth and that which is home to the Persians' ancient king of the world, Mithra. As described in Hindu law, the Naga realm is one of 8 celestial cities arrayed above the cosmic peak Mount Meru, the central pillar of which is synonymous with the central column of energy located roughly in the same place as our human nervous system that spans the spine of our torso from its base up to the crown of our heads. However, this variously described Naga realm, Patala, Bhogavati or Nagaloka is also an archetype of the root chakra of this human energy system, and the Nagas are living expressions of this awakened energy, commonly known as Kundalini, and considered by Hindu Tantrikas to be the ultimate Naga. Generally, like a sentient caduceus, the serpentine torsos of Nagas represent activated, interweaving energy circuits and their illumined, radiant golden heads, with the earrings, jewelry, crown, the brilliant fruit of that total awakening. From the standpoint of creation, the root chakra is found in the groin region, but in the sense of the cosmos, it is the first created center and foundation for the entire cosmic earth. Earth in this sense means all space created to hold matter, and that starts with the root, and here we can correlate the pillar of energy within the human form with the spine of Mount Meru. It is also crucial to appreciate that the cosmic dragon and its location of Nagaloka pertain to the archetype of the root chakra, which means root support. Sri Yantra. The whole universe is pictured as a 2 or 3-dimensional image of Mount Meru in a diagram called Sri Yantra. The supreme Naga, Kundalini, can be seen as the pervasive power rising from a Bindu at its center point, which is where Shiva and Shakti reside in union, Mount Kailash in terms of physical location on this earth. This is the power that pervades and fills the universe, the energy of all things. The Sri Yantra has 9 levels, representing the 9 levels of the body or levels of Mount Meru, like 8 Nagarajas winding themselves around the tree of life, the 9th, representing Great Naga, or Kundalini. Interestingly, almost every Naga shrine centers around a tree. Images of Nagas often adorn houses and temples, as the serpent is associated with the phallic symbol, hence the lingam shape commonly found at places of Shiva interest. This powerful emblem of fertility is thought to bring plentiful harvests and many children.